Welcome to the Shuttlecock podcast, brought to you by Badminton South Australia, the show that talks about the badminton community and the sports industry. Thanks to our amazing sponsors, Badminton Australia, Bendigo Bank West Beach and O'Neill Sportswear.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Shuttlecock podcast. My name is Callum Dunk. Joining us on the show today is the CEO of Badminton Australia, Jamie Parsons. Jamie, how are you, mate? Good to see you.
I'm pretty good, thanks. And thanks so much for giving me some of your time today.
No worries, mate. My pleasure. This podcast series wouldn't actually be possible without the support of yourself and Badminton Australia. So on behalf of Badminton SA, just wanted to say thank you so much. And all the guests have really enjoyed being on the show. So hopefully we can have a good chat this morning.
It's our pleasure to be able to support stuff like this. The recording of the oral histories and oral backgrounds of the sport is really important. So it's great that you could also put in your time to get this done as well.
Jamie, would you be able to tell us a little bit about your career background and how you got involved with Badminton Australia?
Yeah, so I've always worked in the sports industry or the cultural and tourism industry. Before I worked at Badminton Australia, I worked at Gymnastics Victoria. Before that, Netball Australia. I worked at the World Swimming Championships, the Deaflympic Games, and I've always had a real interest in sports activity and sports administration. Stretching back to when I was at school, I was always the kid that went to see the teachers to go and get the cricket bat or the football or the soccer ball at lunchtime or recess, and then just as I went through and went to university, got involved in university sport there, and then just one thing led to another, and I my career was in sport and recreation. So I've been on some boards. I'm currently on the Vic Sport Board, which is the peak body for sport in Victoria. I'm also on the Volunteer Coalition, which is organised by Sport Australia. So I've always had a real interest in sport and getting more people physically active and just knowing the benefits, the health and wellbeing benefits and the mental health benefits of sport has driven me to have a real passion for sport. And I was lucky enough to make a career out of it. And then lucky enough to apply for the job at Badminton Australia when it became available. And, I was selected to take on the role.
Jamie, one of the key things that you've done since taking over as CEO of BA is to launch the One brand. So for those viewers at home who may not be familiar with the One brand, would you be able to give us a bit of an insight into the creation of the brand and how you were able to liaise with, all the states and territories to get it done?
Yeah, so all sport has pretty much been like this at one point or another in Australia's federated model of sport administration. Each of the different state organisations and all the different sports just developed their own logos over time. And over time, a number of the sports have pulled that back together so that there's one look and feel logo so that the sport is telling one story, demonstrates they're united, demonstrates they're all on the same page, all pulling together in the same direction. So when I started at Badminton, all of the states had a different looking logos that were giving different messages. Some looked a bit more modern than others. Some looked very traditional. And so we worked together then. We set up a committee with all of the states. We had a number of people who were on that committee, including people from South Australia. And we talked through what One brand might look like, what the options were. And then we went on a data exercise of getting feedback from as many people as we could across the community around what the essence of badminton is, what is the message we're trying to tell with badminton. And really what it came down to was something I know all badminton people instinctively know, that badminton is fun, it's exciting, it's fast, and it brings people together. So through that process, we then got the designers to design up different options. And as a committee, we went through them, we consulted, and then we came up with the final version, which you can see on all the websites of all the state organisations and Badminton Australia.
And also in when designing the one brand, you also launched the Falcons branding as well. So would you like to talk us through a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, we thought at the same time as we launched the brand for the sport that we should have a sub-brand for the national team. And I'm sure many of the people who are watching this today would know some of the iconic Australian sporting brands, the Wallabies, the Socceroos, the Opals, the Diamonds. And we thought that this was a great opportunity to do the same thing for our national team. So we again went through quite a thorough process to look at what were the different names that we could potentially choose, what might be the most appropriate, and we were able to come up with the Australian Badminton Falcons. It's been really well accepted by the community. People instinctively now just call the national badminton team the Falcons. And we think we're one of the first, if not the first, badminton country to do that. We're not aware of really any other countries that have given their teams the same sort of brand. And we recently presented all of that at the annual general meeting for the International Badminton Federation that was held in Bangkok. And we got lots and lots of interest from the different countries about the process we went through and how we did what we did, because they like to do something similar. So that was so exciting that as a country in Australia, we're really leading the way in that way.
Yeah, I think the Falcons branding has certainly been really well received. We've had a couple of the Falcons players on the podcast so far, and the new branding, looks really great. And from my point of view as a administrator and someone who's been doing our social media pages for a while, it gives us a very clear and set template to use with all of our postings to make sure all the color schemes align. And, it makes us look more professional as a sport in total if, all the states are adopting the branding. And obviously it's nice to differentiate the logos through the use of different colors to, match the state and their color scheme as well. So Jamie, you took over Badminton Australia at quite a difficult time. You sort of came into the role as COVID was just starting. What sort of challenges have you faced specifically in the last 24 months, and how have you used the time to improve Badminton Australia as an organisation?
Yeah, well, there were quite a number of challenges for everyone in the sport, with different states having different rules, not being able to run national championships for 2 years, our players not being able to play from a grassroots level with juniors and junior development right through to the Falcons players getting ready to go to places like the events like the Olympics. It's been a real challenge for everybody. And just at a base level, people not being able to get out of home and play the sport that they love or do physical activity can be quite detrimental to people's mental health as well. So that has been a real challenge for everyone in the sport. And then for our players who really, badminton is their livelihoods as well, that play at a national level, on the international level, on the world stage, is, for example, Gráinne Somerville and Setiana were not able to train together in the month leading into the Olympic Games, because one was stuck in New South Wales and the other one in Victoria. So they weren't able to cross the border to train together. So that was a real challenge for them. But I think also what that period of time actually showed how resilient badminton is and what great people there are in the sport, because the numbers of people playing badminton have never been stronger. And the COVID period of time really gave people a chance to collaborate with each other, to maybe do some extra development work, to plan for the growth of their club into the future, or if they're running a club as a business, being able to think about how they can grow the participation in their club. So while there were lots of challenges for everybody, I think it also provided some opportunities which the people in our badminton community in Australia were able to really harness and then jump straight into participating in badminton again. For example, when we had our national championships in Bendigo over Easter earlier in the year, we had the most number of participants for a regional-based national championships ever. And that was, again, just an example of what an amazing job the leaders in our sport have done to get the sport kick-started again and keep on going.
Yeah, you mentioned some really valid points there. Obviously, in Victoria, you had quite a tough time compared to us in South Australia in terms of number of days in lockdown. But I think we've suffered a little bit more being an indoor sport, and there's been a fair few more challenges that have faced us compared to the likes of footy, cricket, soccer, which are outdoor sports and a lot easier to resume in terms of the restrictions. As you mentioned, we've been able to get back to playing national championships, which has been awesome. We had the ones in Bendigo in Easter, and we've also had the under-15s and under-19 national championships held here in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago. So how did you see that tournament, and what potential improvements could we make to the tournament for 2023 and 2024? Because we've been allocated the right to host for the next couple of years, which is really exciting for the association.
Yeah. So the national championships, both in Bendigo, the Open National Championships in Bendigo in April, and the under-19s and 15s that were just held in Adelaide, and the under-17 and para championships that are coming up in Ballarat, have all been done under the new bylaws for national championships. So during COVID, another thing we took the opportunity to do was to review how national championships are currently run. What are the purposes? What's the purpose of national championships? And then what can we do to ensure that we're enhancing the event? So we really came down to 3 or 4 key things around the purpose of hosting a national championships, and we narrowed it down to being part of the athlete pathway, being able to promote badminton, and ensuring the event is sustainable, and making sure that people are having a good time and celebrating the sport. So we took those 4 key principles. Again, we went through a process. We did surveys throughout the community. We did one-on-one sessions. We had an independent person come in and assist us through the process. And so out of that, we were able to develop a new set of bylaws that aim to achieve all of those things, that ensured that national championships weren't just something that stood out on their own, but were part of the development pathway. So now at all of the national championships, under 15s, 17s, 19s and seniors, if you, for example, win your discipline that you're in, and in some cases, if you finish second, you're automatically selected into the National Falcons team. So we made that as, we wanted to make that process as transparent and fair and objective as possible. So, that's a key part of the athlete pathway. We also knew that some states were struggling being able to run a national championships because of the amount of resources and time and financial risks that it took. So now Badminton Australia run all of the events with the support of the state body and taking any financial risk. So that's really alleviated the amount of time that volunteers need to spend on the event. When we ran the event in April, we were able to have 2 courts being live streamed, and in terms of social media impressions, we had over 100,000 social media impressions and over 55,000 people watched the live stream across Australia. And so again, that helped to promote our sport. So what we are going to do is we do surveys after every national championships. We'll take the information that we get from those surveys and feedback that we get from people to review the bylaws and see what areas we can strengthen the bylaws in for next year. But one of the things, if we can get there, which I think would be good in South Australia, is we had 2 different venues. The under-15s was at one venue and the under-19s were at another venue. If we could bring all of that into one venue, I think that just enhances the celebration of badminton by having more people around, more people watching matches, more people watching the finals. So that's certainly something we can strengthen for next time, I think. And then there's probably just some tweaks to maybe some of the rules just to make sure that we're strengthening, the purposes of the national championships as well.
Yeah, I certainly think the idea of having the under-15s and the under-19s at the same venue would be really good. We've held a few events before at Titanium Security Arena, and the space is certainly quite big. So if we were able to get a few more courts there to be able to cater for the under-15s as well, I reckon that would be a really good move going forward. So, Jamie, this year we've been able to get some funding from Sport Australia, approximately $450,000 of funding from Sport Australia to set up the Shuttle Smash program, which yourself and Matt Simpson have been working really hard on behind the scenes. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the Shuttle Smash program, what the intentions are and the different stakeholders that you've been working with to make sure that it's inclusive?
Yeah, when we had a look at the data, the age group of people who participate in badminton skews toward an older demographic. And our statistics show that around 80% of participants in badminton are over the age of 18 and only 20% under the age of 18. So in our analysis of other sports and also in discussions and information provided by the International Badminton Federation, nearly almost every other sport and every other country, the numbers skew the other way. About 80% of participants are under 18 and 20% are above 18. So to ensure the long-term sustainability of badminton, we really saw a gap as being in that age group of 5 to 12 and looking at how can we get more people who are aged between 5 to 12 involved in badminton. And part of that process was looking at, well, what do other sports do that do a good job in this area? And certainly things like AFL Auskick or netball with Net Set Go, cricket with used to be Milo Cricket, now called Cricket Blast. We saw that a structured program for 5 to 12-year-olds that's fun, that focuses on fundamental movement skills, where the participants get something that they can take home with them, is a model that works in other sports. And so we wanted to do the same thing. So we put forward a funding proposal to Sport Australia, the Australian government, and we were lucky enough to get $450,000 to set up our own program for 5 to 12-year-olds. So we'll be setting that program up with the support of the state organisations over the next 6 to 12 months. And the aim is that that'll be sustainable into the future. So it'll just continue to roll on. We've been really super pleased with the number of expressions of interest we've got from clubs and venues around Australia, now up above 140. So we'll be working with those organisations together with each of the states that have their own designated Shuttle Smash coordinator, so that we can really grow that age group. And just we've been running some pilots, and I'll just pick one out maybe in Shepparton. Shepparton started and promoted one of our first pilot projects, the Shuttle Smash program in Shepparton, which is in regional Victoria. And on the first night, they had 85 children turn up to be part of the Shuttle Smash program. And we've had similar success in just tiny little regional areas of Western Australia, other parts of Victoria, Tasmania, and of course in South Australia as well as part of the pilots. And we couldn't be more pleased with the numbers of people that have been participating in the program. So we know that there's demand there, and we'll continue to grow that program and have an official launch as we lead into term 4 at the end of this year.
Yeah, Bailey Simpson has been looking after the Shuttle Smash program for Badminton SA, and he's doing a really good job. So we had our first pilot project at the Lights Community Centre, who we have a really good relationship with, and the response to the program has been really positive. So we've been able to, I think one of the things that badminton needed was that national program that is recognisable wherever you go. As you mentioned, AFL's got Auskick, netball's got NetSet Go, cricket's got Blast. There's the mini roos as well. So, for badminton to have something of their own, I think is really good. And I actually did a research project for university, and badminton was one of the best sports to help develop fundamental movement skills, which is super important. So this type of program provides children with the opportunity to learn some skills that are transferable between different sports and not just used for badminton. So I think also we need to understand, as badminton, we're competing with these other sports. So, and if we don't put in place products that people want to engage with, then we'll just fall behind some of these other sports. So having the Shuttle Smash program really puts us in a good position where a parent can decide whether we know the parents really care about their children learning as part of being involved in sporting activities. So learning how to be patient, learning how to line up, learning how to cooperate, learning how to be social, but also fundamental movement skills as well, around balance, flexibility, strength, coordination, are things that parents are looking for their children to be able to develop those skills so they have a lifelong love of physical movement. So the Shuttle Smash program, based off the principles behind Shuttle Time, really help us to do that, and then really help us to compete against those other sports. So parents and children are choosing to do badminton rather than maybe some of those other sports. Yeah, you'd like to think that Shuttle Smash would be a fun sort of entry into badminton, and after these 6-week pop-up programs, they would be able to, potentially transition their child into a club, or whether they might want to join like a casual after-school program that we've got set up here. And I'm sure some of the other states have got similar types of projects going on. So, Jamie, prior to joining Badminton Australia, you were involved with Gymnastics Victoria. So what are the challenges of looking after a sport purely at a state level versus, having that extra responsibility at a national level? How does it compare?
Yeah, well, I think with gymnastics in Victoria, we had 60,000 members, which is about 3 times the number of members that we have across Australia for badminton. And so that enabled us to also have more staff. So the biggest difference maybe isn't the difference between national and state organisation, but rather the sizes of the organisations and what resources there are to be able to implement programs and activities to be able to support clubs and support state organisations to grow the sport in their local areas. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is the amount of resources we have and just being creative with what we've been doing. So I'm really proud to say, and I think this is an exclusive, Callum, on your podcast, is that in the current 12-month process, 12-month period, we've been able to secure an extra $1 million through government funding to help invest in badminton. So that includes the $450,000 that we've spoken about around Shuttle Smash, and it also includes extra funding we've received for high performance and for events from local government, and support for the development of players, coaches. So so the difference has been at a national level is we've been able to put in place a strategic plan and develop a new high-performance system, a new participation strategy, and also a new event system that really resonates with government, because, as we know in badminton, we're very diverse, participation base, with around 70%, we estimate around 70% of our participants come from an Asian Australian background. And we know that messaging to get more people more active more often for their health and well-being can be sometimes a little bit trickier to some of the diverse communities around Australia. So that's been a key difference in this sport, is the is the diversity of the community and how we've been able to develop plans that can target people in those communities to get more people active and participating. And government, that has resonated with government because, as I mentioned, we've been able to invest an extra $1 million in all of the activities we've been doing on top of what we'd already been getting in the current 12-month period.
Yeah, $1 million, that's a fantastic achievement. Well done, Jamie. I'm sure those funds will be put to really good use, and we're seeing some really good success with the Shuttle Smash program, and we're hoping to have a few more programs running in term 3 and 4. Just before I let you go, what would you say are some of the goals for Badminton Australia and the associated states and territories within the next 5 years? I know that the increasing participation numbers is really important to you, but also we've seen a lot of resources, thrown into the high performance department. So, in the next 5 or so years, what sort of KPIs could people be looking out for?
Yeah, so we again, I just go back to our strategic plan. By 2032, we're looking to increase our membership base from around 18,000 to 35,000, and we're on track to do that. And in participation base from around 300,000 to over 450,000 by 2032. So that 2032 is an important date because that's when the Olympics will be on. And the Olympics and Commonwealth Games in the lead into 2032 all provide us with a great opportunity to promote the sport. So if we can develop players to be successful at those events, we know that media coverage increases, and we know that more people want to play the sport when they see people through media participating in sporting activities. So we think that that's a really important goal and aim, is not just to develop athletes at Olympics, Paralympics and Commonwealth Games to be successful just for the sake of it, but to actually increase the numbers of people participating in badminton across Australia. So that's number one. Number two, I'm not saying that's the first one, but it's not the priority item, but it's just the first item.
One of many.
And one of many. Equally important is to support state organisations to build the capacity of the sport and the capability of people to run their badminton clubs to get more people participating in badminton. And that's getting that message out there that badminton is fun, that it's easy to pick up and have a hit, that it keeps you fit and healthy, enables you to catch up with your friends if you're an adult. And then for children, all of those things, plus the development of coordination skills and those fundamental movement skills we spoke about before. So increasing the numbers of participants is super important. And thirdly, increasing the numbers of people participating in badminton from diverse communities. So athletes in para, people with disability, increasing the numbers of people participating in para badminton, people from Indigenous backgrounds, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds to participate in badminton, and ensuring when people, newly arrived migrants, when they land in Australia, that they know that there's a badminton club near them that they can go and participate in. So I think they're three of the key things that we're looking to do. And the fourth one is to make our sport more financially viable as well. So we diversify our revenue streams, so we can get more sponsors in. If we can be more commercial in some of the things we do, it means that then we've got more money to invest back into badminton to help support states and clubs and associations to grow the sport in their local areas.
Jamie, thank you so much for your time and giving us a very comprehensive overview of the state of badminton across Australia. And once again, thank you so much for your support of this particular podcast. It wouldn't be possible without you.
My pleasure. Thanks very much, Callum. And you're doing such a great job with these podcasts. I'm really looking forward to seeing them all once they come out.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you to those of you who are watching at home. Make sure that you tune in for our next episode. Cheers.